the UN?
Absolutely. It's a threat to the absolute power of the United States.
One of the defining features of this MAGA movement is the ultranationalism. And one of the main enemies are what they call the globalists. And the definition of a globalist.
One of the objectives of the UN is to create an identity of a global citizen.
They create this institution, which is the closest we've ever got to kind of like a world government.
You know, the United Nations does not have its own army. Absolutely.
I'm not sure the United Nations as an institution is going to survive a second term by Donald Trump. The United States government funds 27% of the UN budget.
Is that more than anyone else?
Oh, by a long stretch.
A United Nations without the action of the United States backing it up, it's not going to be effective.
The purpose of Donald Trump is to end the international institutions that somehow level the playing field. It's a movement that is deeply nationalistic. It's America first, America, make America great again, America, America, America. He wants America first.
So does the UN not want him? Yeah, because I remember her
We are terrified. They're terrified.
So the internal vibe of the UN is like no one wants Trump because of that?
Absolutely nobody wants Trump.
No. That wasn't a Trump 2024 campaign ad you just watched. That was the great work of the journalists over at MugClub, undercover again and finding what we all needed to see. It's all in regards to the UN being a bunch of globalist hacks. You and I both know that for quite some time that they were, but they've gathered the evidence to prove just that. And well, they've just practically just endorsed President Trump. The rest of us who love America saw that, and well, obviously that won us over, but I'm already voting for him anyway, so it doesn't really matter in that regard. But you're probably wondering at home, why would the UN not like President Donald Trump? Why do they see him as a threat? Well, you might recall his speech that he gave back in 2019. In case you don't remember, take a listen.
Wise leaders always put the good of their own people and their own country first. The future does not belong to globalists. The future belongs to patriots. The future belongs to sovereign and independent nations who protect their citizens, respect their neighbors, and honor the differences that make each country special and unique.
Well, obviously, those globalist pigs are triggered by President Donald J. Trump, and rightfully so. As you heard Jorge Pauletti say just there, they fear President Trump getting back into the White House in November. And well, we're all praying that he does. Joining me to discuss the Louder with Crowder CEO, Gerald Morgan, joins me now. Gerald, thank you for joining me. I love this story because now that we know officially the UN really isn't endorsing President Trump. In fact, they don't want him to win. I take that technically as an endorsement. I did reach out to the UN and ask if they were going to endorse Kamala Harris or give comment regarding Jorge Pauletti's comments and if they all back his beliefs on globalism. They didn't get back to me, of course, but this is great work. So tell our audience a little bit about what's going on here and why they're so afraid of President Donald Trump.
Well, look, I couldn't agree with you more, Brianna. I think this is kind of like Planned Parenthood giving Donald Trump an F. It's kind of like, well, thank you. Are you trying to get more people to vote for me? That's exactly what we want to hear with organizations like the UN. Look, the United Nations, we fund about a third of what's going on over there. So a lot of our money is going to this organization. He said it by a long stretch, to use his words, is the leading funder being the United States. I think these guys honestly think that they have a blank check to go and do whatever they want to do. And then also threatening to pull out of the WHO. I mean, Donald Trump is the first person, it seems, that has the balls to actually stand up to these guys and maybe hold them accountable. And they fear accountability, 100% fear accountability, for sure. You know what? Our team over at MugClub Undercover, they did a phenomenal job going out and getting this. We've all suspected this, but now we have the audio. It's not just a thought anymore. It's something that you cannot refute at this point.
Yeah, and that's why it's such a great piece of work that you guys just put out, because I gotta say, we talked about this for so long. I know I went to the UN's website. They don't really hide any of their globalist agenda at this point. They're pretty much all in on the one world order narrative, and they're
Mhm.
pushing it extensively on their website. They think the rest of us should feel some form of guilt for those nations that are in poverty, even though we are the most generous country in the world, and that we have to back this. It's obviously not the case. Most Americans understand that we should not be backing this. Do you think most Americans are going to see this video and take it as a Trump endorsement?
I really do. I mean, I think there's been a lot of people that I don't know if they basically have just written off the UN, if they don't care about the UN, but having this kind of audio where they're actively saying that, and I'll just quote really quickly here, Poletti said that, basically the UN is useless for 95% of issues related to international peace and security. They are a useless organization. Well, that's kind of the reason you were founded in the first place, UN. You were supposed to make sure that we never got into another global war and that we had this place to go to. So many Americans right now are concerned with this idea that being a nationalist to some degree is a bad thing, meaning taking care of your own country, your own people first. Like, that's a bad thing. It doesn't mean you ignore what's going on in the world. It just means that the priority is take care of home so that you can continue to help abroad in ways that make sense for the American people. That's where the debate is. What does make sense internationally? When you see this guy say, these MAGA people, they're like, America, America, America. I'm like, yes. Yes, and I expect that citizens in France would say France, France, France if they weren't too busy surrendering. In Germany, they would say Germany, Germany, Germany if they weren't too busy starting world wars. I'm saying every country should be like that. Every single country out there should want to protect its citizens and represent its citizens first. Then go out and do the stuff. It's just being like on an airplane. You got to put your mask on first before you put somebody else's mask on. Come on, this should be easy, right?
Yeah.
But this is a huge diversion from what people think that the UN should be about, taking care of making sure that if something is going to pop off in the world, that they do a good job with it. How has that worked with Ukraine? How has that worked with insert conflict here that the UN has done absolutely nothing about? I'm done with these people. I've been fed up with these people for a long time. It's time that we take some land back in New York and start charging rent and start revoking their ability to get out of parking tickets because they have immunity. It's silly at this point.
Yeah, they didn't like when President Trump threatened them with just that. I mean, and we should be doing that, because
No.
the UN has been, as they all pretty much just admitted, they're useless. They haven't really done anything. And I know Steven Crowder mapped it out today on the show, but
Yeah.
went through all of the corrupt things that the UN has participated in, like impregnating Haitian women and then abandoning them,
Yes.
their workers. I mean, the list goes
Hundreds
on.
of children.
I mean, it's so absurd. And I do believe there was accusations floating around that they were also involved in the Israel Gaza issue as well. And there was that. And I believe our own
Pretty
president was trying
substantial.
to,
Yeah, pretty substantial arguments out there for that.
and we're all sitting here like, oh no, we should keep funding them. No, the UN has done nothing at all for us, the American people. So now would be a great time to defund them, and we should all be on board with that at this point, or at least reduce everything that we've been giving them so far, because we're giving them way too much. But
Yeah.
Gerald, we're constantly talking about foreign interference in our election. Do you fear that the
Mhm.
UN actually might try to interfere? Because as you heard there, Jorge believes that if Trump does get a second term, the UN might not exist anymore.
Well, look, people have a motivation to survive and keep their budgets, right? Nobody ever comes back to you and says, look, we only spent 90% of what you gave us to spend. So next year, we only need 90% as our budget. So the UN as an organization, unfortunately, once it's created, has nothing but survive and expand as its motivation, right? So you have the survival of the organization, and then you have the expansion with all of these other kind of things that they have added to the UN since its founding. And I think that is the kind of thing that they are going to fight for, which means they have to fight against Donald Trump. Now, what form that takes is really the question. Are they going to intervene in places where they should, right? So is it an omission thing where they're like, well, we should have intervened here and took care of this problem potentially that could have affected how the United States is viewed in the world? Or do we put pressure here by, saying there was something that happened in Gaza, a terrible conflict? I understand that there's a lot of people with opinions on both sides, but do we make something look worse than it is by certifying what, I don't know, maybe the Gaza Ministry of Health, which you cannot trust at all, says? There are different things that they can do to put pressure on either the administration that's currently in office or a president who is running for office by looking back at his administration saying he did these things then. I think what we're fighting right now is the globalist agenda. And look, I don't tend to believe in conspiracy theories. I think they're interesting sometimes, but I don't tend to fully buy in. But I know somewhere right now, Alex Jones is going, Gerald, I told you, it's 100% the globalists. Like, he is absolutely blowing his mind right now because this guy says I'm a globalist. They're trying to set up some kind of a global identity for a citizen. Quotes from him, right? This is the closest institution that we have ever gotten to a one world government. That's from him. And the thing that should send a chill down the spines of every single person watching this right now is not only did he say all these things that the UN is useless and that they're terrified of Donald Trump and that the UN is global citizenship and all this other stuff, but he said that the UN should have an army. The UN should have an army to go in and do what? To keep the peace? Where? You guys have never done anything effective in keeping peace in my mind. You guys are going to have an army now and you're going to have guns to go in and take care of Donald Trump on his immigration stuff. You heard talk about that a little bit. You could take it to another court. I don't understand why we put up with this crap. Now, the solution, and sorry, it's a long-winded answer because there's just so much here with the UN. The solution is either some kind of accountability or we're done with the UN. I think the solution is accountability, but it's got to come with pain because these guys don't understand anything but taking money away from what they're doing. I don't want to leave a power vacuum, though, because China is the #2 supporter of the UN, I believe. And so I don't want them to necessarily stand up and become the main person supporting the UN, and then we have to deal with all of the crap that China is going to spew. I just think we need some accountability. It needs somebody like Donald Trump who goes in there and is fearless and will not back down and absolutely put down this globalist agenda and say, no, we have countries for a reason. You guys go do your thing. We'll do ours. And when there is an issue, we'll come together and talk about it before we start firing things at each other. How about that?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good idea, I would say. You know, it reminds me of the World Health Organization, too, how they're trying to get America to surrender our rights, Americans to surrender our rights and sign a treaty as well. It's so well orchestrated. I used to think it was crazy when folks would be like, oh, one world order. I'd be like, all right, shut up over there. But they're right.
I know. The more it comes out, the more I'm like, I owe Alex an apology. Like, the frogs are gay. It turns out this is happening. The globalist agenda that absolutely that they need an army. I'm like, well, okay, Alex was right. And if they're 95% useless when it comes to international peace and security, direct quote from Paoletti, I think we should give them 95% less money. How about that? Sounds like a plan to me.
That's a good idea. Yeah, I mean, he pretty much, that was a great legal argument. You're not even an attorney.
I'm not. But I do play one on TV sometimes.
You have to. No, I like it. And with the Alex Jones, the frogs are turning gay. I actually listened to that one, and my dogs don't even drink the tap water because I don't want gay dogs. And so we've got a great filtration system here at my house, and they're thriving, these pups. So there's that. Daryl, I wanted to touch upon what MugClub is working on because you guys are doing great work as we get closer and closer to the election. So what do you guys have down the pipelines? I know you can't tell me too much, but I know there's a lot coming up.
Oh my gosh. I feel like we're going to be talking to each other quite a lot over the next several weeks here, but specifically between now and the election, every single week, it's something that MugClub is going to put out, an undercover story that is related to people trying to go after Donald Trump, the election specifically, or indirectly, and some other stories as things break that people bring to us. We are going to be producing stories that are going to change how people view not only this election, like we really do have a story in my mind, and I said this on the show, I believe on Wednesday, that could change the outcome of this election. And that is not me exaggerating in any way the importance of a story that we have. Make sure that you guys are tuning into us at 10 a.m. Eastern on the show that we do before we go to MugClub afterwards. And that's when we break all of these stories. And then we talk a little bit more about it in MugClub for our members. So just make sure that you're paying attention because there's too much going on, right? These elections, I know we can say that, the stop the potential for an election to be stolen. I know that YouTube doesn't care about that anymore, the stealing of an election, because I think they're probably going to say this one was stolen the other way this time. But you need to know that the stories that we have coming out are incredibly impactful. So just save some time for me.
Yeah. We've got the time for you. And speaking of saving time, I wanted to pitch an idea to you, Gerald. I know you're a very busy man. So now that I've got you here, I just came up with these t-shirts. I did it myself. Maybe some defund the UN shirts coming from MugClub.
There you
These are my
go.
designs. Very unique, obviously. Duh. But but Gerald,
I love it.
maybe a nice little exclusive that you guys could drop for MugClub, because we could definitely use some good teas.
Let's talk about it. They're very small on my monitor here, but I think they're probably pretty cool shirts. Defund
I'm
the
biased, so
UN
say
should
yes.
definitely be something. I love it. I absolutely
I
love
love
it.
it. It's a great movement. I get behind it. Thank you, Gerald, for all the great work you guys are doing over at MugClub.
Brianna, thank you so much.
Okay, I just had to head over to mypillow.com right now to make sure their sale is still going on, because it's going to end any day now. It's a $25 extravaganza Mike Lindell has going on right now. There are so many great items that you can indulge in. These are the lowest prices I've seen thus far. And the best way to lock down these prices is with that promo code you see on your screen. So that one is BRE, B-R-E. Make sure you use that. That is going to get you these best discounts. Again, there's pillows, towels, dish towels. There's the slippers, the sandals. So many incredible items on sale now for $25. You have to use that promo code BRE to secure these savings, though. So make sure when you head on over, use promo code BRE to save up to 66% off.